All right, boys, I'm back for part two of my weight loss journey, which will now be transitioning into me gaining weight. So it's going to be three parts, and my apologies for this taking so long. I got a new puppy. She has ruined my sleep, and then I got sick. I went to the gym, and I just was doing back, and I just was doing the lat pull down, and you know that like that feeling if you have way too much caffeine. I only had half a scoop of pre-workout, but it felt like I drank six coffees. I get that weird like anxiety, like heart rate, everything. I started sweating, got really hot. I was like, man, what is going on? So I did like half my workout. I just kept feeling gross. Eventually, I called it a little bit early. I finished most of it, went home, and like instantly I just started getting cold. So I was dealing with like a little bit of like a fever, I think. It lasted like 2 days. It wasn't that bad. And then I was just like really tired. Like it zapped all of my energy, probably from the lack of sleep from the puppy trying to crate trainer. If none of you have ever, if you've never tried to crate train a dog, I've never done this before. It is kiss your sleep goodbye. That's all I'm gonna say. It's maybe some dogs are better, but I got a mini Australian Shepherd, and yeah, it's definitely hard. So here we are for part two. So in the part one, I kind of went over all my weight loss, kind of like how I felt like it affected my performance, what I did, stuff like that. This is part two. It's a little bit different. It's a little bit less strict because obviously when you're gaining weight, you have a little bit more leeway, and I didn't really know what I was doing. So at a certain point there, at the end of C9, right before I got removed, I was kind of like at my skinniest point, right? So I was like as lean as I could get without, starving myself and just feeling even worse and worse and worse. So I decided, okay, I'm going to put on some muscle, get a little bit of mass, and then I'll re-diet down. And for me, it was a little hard mentally because when you've lost a lot of weight, like I don't know how much weight I lost. I definitely lost over 100 pounds. How much more, I'm not sure. Like I never weighed myself at my heaviest, like I said, so it's a little bit of guesswork. But I probably lost somewhere between like 100 to like 150 pounds, somewhere in that range. So like mentally, it was a little bit tough, right? Because like you go from being like super skinny and everything, and then like you start eating a little bit more carbs, you get a little bit more bloated, and it kind of like plays a little bit like it kind of messes with your head a little bit, right? So because like I mean, maybe not for everyone, but for me it did. So at this point, I started eating more, and there's no pictures in between these two. I guess HLTV didn't care about documenting my journey here. But yeah, eventually I got cut from C9, and then I went on to play with like a Nylum, TSM, complexity, stuff like that. So I'll go through that in a second. So at this point, at the end of C9, I remember I was in Sweden, and that was when we're boot camping in Sweden. I said, you know what? I want to play well at this tournament. I'm gonna switch this to a bulk. So I just started going wild. Like I was like a rookie. I'd never tried to gain weight before, but back in the day, we didn't have as much information. There wasn't much YouTubers. There wasn't as much, forum posts, and there just a lack of information, right? So at the time, I was like, calories in. You got to eat big to get big, which is like kind of true, but that more applies a little bit later. I think when you're very skinny, you don't need that many calories. Like I think like a lot of people think, oh, I need 5,000 calories. Like you probably don't need 5,000 calories. I'm not like maybe if some of you guys that are playing a lot of sports and construction workers and stuff, sure, I can believe it. But for most sedentary people, like 5,000 calories of clean food is it's probably too much at the start. But again, like obviously people have different metabolism. So what I did is I started going to Mickey D's. So if you've never been to Sweden, in Stockholm, and you want to find a wife, just go directly down to Stockholm McDonald's, and there will be hundreds of 10 out of 10 blondes working there. Blonde hair, blue eyes, tall, maybe too tall for some of you guys. I'm just saying. But the problem is you're competing with the men who are equally as attractive, perfect jaw lines, all 6'1", all muscular, just gods, right? So it's tough. It's tough out there, but like if you think you can compete, good luck. So I would go to the McDonald's every day. And I think I would just eat the hotel breakfast, just eggs, oats, kind of standard stuff. I'd have like maybe a croissant or like a Danish or whatever. Because at the time, I'm like, oh, calories. So I'm always trying to like buff up the meal a little bit. I wasn't trying to go too crazy, but like, when I go to McDonald's, I get like 2 burgers and fries and like an apple pie. It's too much. It's too much, right? But at the time, I didn't know. So I was kind of like that dirty bulk a little bit. So I got stronger. I started getting real strong. And that's kind of what like transitioned me into like kind of like liking lifting. Because before I was always lifting and I was just always lifting in a pretty heavy deficit. So when you're lifting in a deficit, you don't really like make a ton of gains. Like in a big deficit, I should clarify. If you're smart and like let's say your maintenance is 3,000 calories and you eat 2,700 calories, I do believe you can increase your lifts, especially when you're newer. You can gain some muscle, 100%. You can look better. But if you're doing what I was doing, you know, like a minus over 1,000 calories a day, there's not a lot of room for your body to really work with. So especially when you're as skinny as I was, like at the start, sure, you have some fat reserves you could maybe tap into, but at a certain, you know, when you're just a rail, you know, you have zero mass anywhere. I mean, there's not, you're pretty much running on fumes, right? So for me, the gym was never that fun until I started eating. When I started eating, I started feeling better. I feel like my sex drive went back up. I feel like I had a little bit of like a low libido at a certain point there at the end, like I touched on before. I felt like my energy was very poor, and I was relying a lot on caffeine. That kind of went away. I didn't need as much caffeine anymore. I started feeling a lot better. Obviously, I started getting a little bit more weight, like you can kind of see in some of these pictures, right? Like I'm not jacked, I'm not fat, but like, you know, I got a little bit more weight on me. You know, I'm not quite as skinny as I was. But anyways, so I was kind of doing a dirty bulk. So when I was at home, I would do like steak and sweet potatoes and, you know, chicken and rice and stuff. But I would do like I think I was doing 4 meals a day at that time. It's hard to remember, you know, this is a long time ago. But then obviously like sometimes I would just like, before bed, I would always do like I would do my calorie, you know, increase before bed. So I'd have like half an apple pie or like some donuts or something. It's just completely unnecessary, but like in my head, it was good and it tasted great. And I find a lot of people that are going through like these type of journeys, losing weight, gaining weight, we all make the very similar mistakes. If you talk to any big bodybuilder and ask them, did you ever do a dirty bulk where you got too fat? They're almost all of them say yes. Like it's pretty common. So like, don't beat yourself up if you make the mistake. I feel like everyone makes this mistake, right? Like it's really common, especially when everyone's like, bro, just eat big to get big, eat the burgers, you know, get the McDonald's, you know, like, and like, dude, it works. Like you're going to get stronger. You're just like probably going to be a little bit unhappy with how much you have to cut at the end. That's the problem. Like now, I feel like I stay a lot leaner, so when I have to diet, it's not as hard, right? So I think that's the biggest benefit is you don't have to strip off like a ton of fat. So anyways, I started doing powerlifting, so I actually ramped down my training. I stopped doing as much cardio. I don't know if I completely eliminated cardio at the start. Eventually I did, I believe, because obviously cardio burned calories, which is a mistake. I would always say to keep cardio in year-round. Whether you're bulking, cutting, just maintaining, doing nothing, like it could be something as simple as 3 days a week for 30 minutes. That's what I'm doing right now. But I'm at my peak weight, so my coach has actually reduced my calories. For the most of this bulk, I've been bulking for a year right now. Just so you guys know, I had 5 days a week of 30 minutes of cardio every morning for almost the entire year until recently. So, and I've gained 80 pounds, and I've stayed pretty lean. So just keep that in mind when you think like cardio is bad. Cardio is great for recovery. It gets blood flow. You don't want to be like sprinting every day for an hour. You know, you don't want to be doing marathons for sure. There is a point where cardio will hurt you. But if you're going on an incline walk, you're going on a mile jog, you know, a 20-minute jog on an elliptical or something, like, you're fine. It's going to help your recovery. It's going to help with blood flow. It's going to help your cardiovascular system. You're going to be able to go harder in the gym, which is a big one that people forget. They think, oh, well, cardio kills your gains. You know what kills your gains? You having to stop your squat because you ran out of breath. That's bad for gains. So Ronnie Coleman did 2 hours of cardio all year round. Maybe not 2 years, all 2 hours in the off season, but he always did like an hour of cardio every day. So like on the stepper. So I mean, Ronnie Coleman's a genetic freak, but my point is he had big ass legs. He was one of the biggest humans ever. So I mean, I don't think cardio is a huge problem. I think it's only a benefit. So do your cardio, boys. So here is when I was got like into my like where I felt like I was getting strong at the time, right? So at this point, I'm training 3 days a week powerlifting. So it was like, I think I was doing like 5x5, like ice cream fitness, which like, you know, you bench one day, you deadlift one day, and you squat all 3 days. So that explains why my quads got so big. So I'd squat 3 days a week, I'd deadlift once, and I'd bench twice, and I'd overhead press once. So, and I do some accessory work like rows and stuff. But my main thing was like at this point I think I was squatting in like the 300 ish. Because I remember on TSM was when I hit my 500-pound deadlift for the first time, and I squatted like 400. So at this point I was probably in that like deadlifting around 400, 450, and I was probably squatting in the low 300s. But this was the best I've ever played in Counter-Strike. So I think at this point, I was happy with my strength. I was gymming 3 days a week. I was eating a lot of food. I had a good team environment. Like, we all got along. Like, Soham, me, Automatic, Sanks. It was a super fun team. Roka. I love this team. It was super fun to play. And this was probably my best, like, statistical performance ever. I was an AWPer. I wasn't missing at the time. If you go watch my old demos, I was the top-rated player in the ESEA League with Prime MIBR, Big, with Tabson, and all those guys. So, like, it wasn't easy opponents either. So, like, this was probably my best statistical era ever. It's just not a lot of people remember because we didn't, like, really, like, go make super deep runs at the time. But I was, like, I felt like this was probably my peak performance. And this was when I felt like weight training didn't hurt me. So I feel like maybe it was the 3 days a week of training, so I had a lot of recovery time, and my volume wasn't super high. So I'd go in and I would squat 5x5. I'd do a little bit of accessory work and I'd leave, but like realistically, I wasn't doing that much, right? It was powerlifting. It wasn't like bodybuilding where you do like a ton of volume. So I'd do like squats, and I might do some like leg press, leg extensions, and then I would leave. You know, maybe some rows. I can't remember exactly, but my point is, at this point, I was like peak performance in my opinion. And then eventually, me and Automatic got bought out from Complexity, and we joined TSM. When I was on TSM, this is when I started getting like a lot stronger. At some point between Complexity and TSM, I had dieted in the middle of this, and I kind of like reset myself, and then I rebulked up. So from here, I actually got like pretty lean, and then I rebulked back up. So you can see I'm like really pushing the food here. You can kind of see it in my face. I got a little bit more like fat on my face. My arms are a little bit bigger. I got bigger traps. I'm definitely like, at this point, I'm deadlifting around like the 500s, squatting around the 400s. At this point, it's making me really tired. And it's here. You can see my my quads here. At the time, I thought I had the biggest quads ever, but obviously they're compared to pro bodybuilders, they're good. They're just, you know, they're not elite. But you can tell I'm definitely like lifting here more, right? You can see that. Eating a lot of food. Again, I'm still like being kind of careful, but I'm doing stuff more like I'm eating at Nando's. I'm eating the food at the events at this point. I'm not really being so anal about being perfect or everything. Getting my protein, making sure I'm getting enough calories. That was like my main goal. Get enough protein, get enough calories. Well, the carbs and the fats kind of fell like wherever they were at, you know. So some days I might have a little bit more fat, some days a little bit more carbs, and then eventually I started hearing about the stand effort eating vertical diet, and then I switched to the steak and rice. So every meal was just steak and rice, eggs and oats, steak and rice, steak and rice, steak and rice, maybe some Greek yogurt. So literally I was just eating steak all day, every day, which in retrospect was a bad idea because I don't have a gallbladder. So now I do not do that much red meat. I do like one red meat meal a day, mostly chicken, stuff that's a little bit easier to digest. My fats are a lot lower. But I got really strong at this point. Now, when I was on TSM, I will say that at the time, we had to use Logitech gear. Don't get me wrong, I love Logitech. They have awesome products. But at the time, we had to use G100S. So we had choices of this mouse, the G502. Whoops. Sorry about that. G502. We have this monstrosity, and then the MX518 or the whatever the Legends, whatever it was called. We had like the whatever the reboot was at the time. So those are the three mice, and I sucked with them. I sucked so bad with them. So the combination of me not being comfortable with the gear I was using and training too hard, I do think it took away from my performance. I think it was a negative. I think there's a point of diminishing returns with being healthy, and I think I found it being like as soon as I started like pushing that 400-pound squats, the 500-pound deadlifts. I actually got up to 675 deadlifts, 7 plates. So I was a really strong deadlifter. Like my deadlift is naturally very, very, very strong. And I remember like waking up the next day on TSM and I feel like I was just dead. I would just be like lying there in my bed feeling like I got hit by a truck. It's almost like you feel like you're drunk, like hungover, but you aren't. Like it's like it takes a lot out of your body when you're lifting near those 100%. Like 500 to someone might not be that hard, but like at the time, like if I go lift 500 right now, I'm not going to feel like that. Like it's not going to be as hard. But at the time, 500 was like that was like peak strength, right? So I'd feel very tired, very lethargic, and then I'd be in practice, and obviously I'm not giving 100%. So 100%, that's a mistake there. But at the same time, I didn't know. Like this wasn't like an intentional thing, right? So for me, I didn't mean to do any of this, right? Like I didn't mean to like screw my teammates over or like hurt my performance. I literally thought lifting is healthy. I'm lifting like 3 or 4 days a week. It's not that much time. It's like an hour and a half at the gym. Like realistically, it wasn't taking that much time away from like playing CS. Like I would wake up, watch some demos, go to team prac, come back. I'd usually eat at the office around the last scrim. I would eat a meal, like cream of rice, protein powder or something. I'd go from there directly to the gym, do a workout, go home, play more FPL things. So like realistically, I didn't feel like the time aspect was really getting me. Whereas like bodybuilding now, 100%, the time aspect is more difficult. You know, eating 6 meals a day, doing cardio in the morning, doing longer workouts, working out 5 days a week. On my rest, I is feeling very tired from pushing myself so hard. Definitely think bodybuilding is a lot more strict. It's a lot more time intensive. There's a lot more like little things you got to do, you know, inter-workout drinks. You have like, there's so much stuff you got to prepare, you know, like your food, your meals, your post-workout food is more like set, and like everything in bodybuilding is more like precise. Whereas like powerlifting is a lot. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be precise because I think it would help you more if you were, but like a lot of powerlifting is like get your calories in as long as you're not like, you know, in a weight class. If you're stuck in a weight class, you got to be more careful, obviously. But like, if you don't care about your weight class, it's more like get the calories in, do the training, and rest. You know. So like, for me, I think powerlifting is like a double-edged sword for gamers because like, well, it's like a little bit less time intensive. It's a little bit less strict than bodybuilding, which is going to free up some time. At some point, you're going to get too strong, and I think that's going to be the point that kind of hurts you. Whether for you, that could be a 300-pound squat, it could be a 400, it could be a 500-pound, it might be 600 for some of you guys. Like, you look at some guys just have like crazy recovery capabilities, but the main thing is like when you're lifting heavy, the central nervous system gets hit hard, right? So if you're someone like me, I feel like some days, even if I don't do like super heavy lifts, I'll go to the gym, and I remember I was coming back from Ontario, and my girlfriend's sister was like, "Why is your hand shaking?" I didn't even notice. I was just eating my food, and my hand was just shaking a little bit. It's just central nervous system, right? It's just like it's overworked, so it causes like little twitches. And like obviously when you're playing games, you don't want your hand, you know to be like shaking a little bit, right? Almost like you're going low blood sugar. Like if you've ever gone low blood sugar, I know a lot of you probably haven't, but if you have ever gone low blood sugar, I go low blood sugar sometimes when I'm dieting, because when my fats are lower and my carbs go lower, sometimes I burn through all my glycogen, and then I go low blood sugar, and my whole, I start sweating, and like my hands start shaking. I literally have to get off the cardio machine, go up to my apartment, and eat some fruit or candy or something. Like, not a lot, just so you guys know, if you ever go low blood sugar, you only need like 10 or 15 grams of carbs to get out of it. You don't have to eat the world. Your body's going to make you feel like you want to eat the world. The first time you ever go low blood sugar, you're going to eat everything in sight. It doesn't matter what it is. Your body's going to be like carbs, and you will just fucking inhale the carbs, and they will taste amazing. When you're low blood sugar, everything tastes awesome. So that's obviously a bonus, but for this part 2, that's mostly what I want to talk about. And then part 3, we're going to go in a little bit more about some of the stuff that I think people might want to hear bodybuilding related, how I got, to 300 pounds, how I, dieted for a bodybuilding show. There's stuff that I want to be careful about what I say, but we're going to go more into that. So obviously here is me when I was on first joined Nylum, and this is me just dieting. I got a coach, and I said, like, just diet me to as lean as you think is acceptable, and then I want to bulk, because I kept hearing coaches and people in bodybuilding say, there's nothing like bulking out of a lean state. That's what everyone said. You get really lean and then bulk. So I want to try it. And I will say, I 100% swear by this. If you are a little bit chubby, or you've been kind of like strong, fat, bodybuilding, a little bit thicker than you'd like, and you feel like you hit stalls, you hit like kind of like a point where you're no longer getting a lot bigger, diet. Just diet. It resets everything. Your insulin sensitivity gets better. You get better at processing nutrients. You can usually handle more carbohydrates, stuff like that, and you can also push the food harder, because if you can gain 20 pounds of fat and you're still not fat, well, that's a powerful tool, right? So yeah, anyways, so this is me. I kind of like, this is me. I think I was like around 220 pounds here. This is not show lean, but I'm pretty lean here. And this was near the end of when I started bulking again. So here's me a month later. No, just kidding. So then obviously this is like the RMR this year. Yeah, this year, I think. Yeah, so anyways, we went to the Paris major qualifier, and I was bulking here out of a show, so I was getting a bit bigger. And then eventually here we are at I Am Dallas, and I was like, when I was at I Am Dallas, this was about 4 or 5 weeks away from my show, so I was pretty lean, but I wasn't like show ready yet. So you can see like you can start seeing the fibers and the muscles a little bit more through here, but I'm not shredded. Like for a normal person, yeah, of course I'm shredded, but like for a bodybuilder, I'm still 4 to 6 weeks away from stepping on a stage, because when you step on a stage, everything gets revealed. So you have to be like almost dead. If you're not almost dead, the guy that's almost dead is going to beat you. So you really have to suffer. So I'm going to do a separate video of like what it takes to be a bodybuilder, just for anyone that's curious. What it takes, what it entails, should you do it? And I would just say, like, if you don't love it, don't do it. Like, this is not for everyone. It's fun. I love it. I really do. But I do think it's not something that, like, if you're just doing it because you want followers or you want money or you like the look, it just, personally, I feel like it's going to be too tough, because you have to do this for a very long time. It's not something that you can do for 6 months. You know, like, you could do a show, I guess, but I'm just saying, like, you really have to suffer in this sport, and it encompasses a lot of your life. So, yeah, I would just say, like, that was kind of my experience, like, gaining weight and playing on different teams and kind of what I eat. It was definitely, like, more enjoyable. Like, I definitely enjoyed this period a lot more than dieting. Obviously, when you're leaner, people give you more attention. It's just how it is. Like, I definitely got more attention being skinnier than when I was, like, more in this page. Like, when I was here, people knew that I lifted, and they would say that, like, oh, you have big legs or whatever. But, like, obviously I wasn't, like, massive or anything. So, anyways, that's it for part 2, and we'll go over part 3 hopefully within the next week. I got some podcasts lined up. We're going to be talking about some stuff I think you guys will like. But yeah, I've had some people bail on me from personal stuff for podcasts, and I myself was sick. So, yeah, we'll get that out to you guys pretty soon. But anyways, Hope you guys found this interesting or not. Yeah, it's hard to remember everything. Just so you guys know, it's a very long time ago. It's hard to give like exact, definitions of what I was eating and stuff like that. But I will say, I ate a lot of McDonald's.